The Browns players are definitely excited for the opener against the Titans. Time to welcome in our Browns expert, Jake Burns. And Jake, when you look at this, does it concern you that Odell Beckham said, he's still not 100% top speed, if you will?
Yeah, I think anytime you hear that, it's not a welcome thing to hear, because you could have a guy who pushes himself too hard too quick. And, you worry about, talked about the adrenaline sort of taking over and being a big factor in why he can sort of take off right away and be able to overcome some of the pain. But you don't want him to push it too hard, and then he maybe misses the next few weeks. There's some concern there. He doesn't seem overly concerned, but it is interesting to me that he said it's something he's never dealt with before, so maybe he doesn't understand what his body can handle with it. So it should be interesting. The entire situation should be. They have Malcolm Butler, Logan Ryan, who are good corners. Not anything overwhelmingly good, but they're solid, good NFL corners who, if Odell's not, pushing 100% or doing his heroic endeavors that he does on the football field, it could seem to balance out those scales a little bit.
I know you've done a preview on the Orange and Brown report of this game. What do you see as something that the Browns want to take advantage of offensively? Some of the things you think that will be there for the Browns.
So the Titans' defense is just really sound on all three levels. They have Jarrell Casey, who's an all-pro player up front, and Cameron Wake, Harold Landry off the edges. They have Jayon Brown and Rashaan Evans at linebacker, who are two very good football players. And then their secondary is really good. It might be the second best secondary they play outside of Baltimore this year. If you have Kevin Byard, who's all-pro safety, one of the best safeties in the game, just got the highest paid contract, at his position. Kenny Vaccaro is a very good, strong safety thumper who can come up and play. And I mentioned the two corners too. They don't have a noticeable weakness. It's just going to have to be sound execution from the Browns. The Browns have some advantages. I mean, the Browns have weapons. They have weapons all over the field. I think this is going to be about which team is best coached and which play caller puts some, their athletes in the best situations to succeed. But as far as you're looking at defenses that the Browns are going to play this year, the Titans genuinely have one of the better defenses from top to bottom. And the Browns' goal should be to get to 24 points. If they can get to 23, 24 points, that's a pretty good accomplishment against this defense, just on pure offensive output alone. And, I don't necessarily see one singular way they can attack, but I think that they can try to isolate some one-on-one matchups with Rashard Higgins, and then obviously allow Odell to sort of flourish in some of the things he likes to do. They just have to, look at what scheme the Titans are playing. What are they going to play coverage-wise? What are they playing most often? And take advantage of, some misdirection things, some play action, trying to establish Nick Chubb, and then, like I said, using some play action off of it. So it's unclear. The tough thing about these previews, and I wrote that today, is that I don't know how either team's going to attack. The preseason doesn't tell us anything, and a lot of what we're doing, predictions, previews-wise, is based on last year, which is thrown out the window, as you saw last night with the Bears and the Packers. You just don't know. So I'll be fascinated to see how the Browns go about attacking this defense. But from a personnel standpoint, the Titans are very good.
When you look at that, and you kind of touched on where I was going with that, the Browns' number one offense really hasn't worked together in the preseason as a unit, but you could probably say that about everybody in the NFL. Is that a concern? Does that throw off timing? Is it just the way it is in week one of the NFL these days?
I think that's the way it is, and it makes unpredictable situations in week one, because you don't really know. You haven't seen these offenses work together. I almost think it's like, Dave, you would say that the 4-week preseason is almost like a prep league for the NFL anymore. You're not seeing the first team guys. It's almost like a development league, a 4-week development league for fringe players and guys trying to make the roster. And then week 1, week 2 are where you try to see if teams can gel, become who they're going to be. The season's broken into 4 months, really. 4-week periods there. So you got to really, at the beginning of the year, try to mitigate as many mistakes as you can, keep those at a minimum. Understand that the timing and some of those best situations, best play calls will probably be a little bit off, as we saw last night with that 10-3 opener. I remember, I think just last year, the opener between the Falcons and the and the Eagles was a pretty ugly game offensively too. Not every game will be ugly across the league. Some defenses will be in bad shape as well. Maybe that happens at First Energy Stadium, but if you're looking at just the two defenses against these offenses, I would predict a low-scoring game, and a lot of that, like you said, Dave, comes from a lack of on-field live game situation, bonding and gelling as an offense, especially because those guys just don't play in the preseason anymore. You don't want injuries, and that's what everybody's trying to avoid.
When you look at the Browns defense, how big of a concern is Derrick Henry, a guy that wasn't great at the beginning of last year, but boy, late in the year, he was one of the better backs in the league.
Yeah, I thought under Matt LaFleur, who's now Green Bay's head coach, he was their play caller OC last year. I thought they got into a power running game and committed more, bodies into the run game, got away from so much RPO stuff, and really made a commitment to him. Now, understand, Taylor Lewan is out, and Jack Conklin has missed some practice this week. Their right tackle, Dennis Kelly's playing left tackle. Those are two areas of concern, especially with both of those guys. Dennis Kelly as well has missed time this week. With being banged up, and then they did sign Roger Saffold to sort of anchor their interior. I think he's going to play left guard, and then Kevin Pamphile is going to play right guard. But he also has missed multiple days of practice. I don't know. I think the Titans obviously have two really good running backs in Derrick Henry and Dion Lewis, but their offensive line is a massive question mark, and their tackles especially are massive question marks, and that's where the Browns are very effective. So I do expect the Browns to keep this run game bottled up, and if they don't, I would be very surprised, because I just think personnel-wise, that's where there's a pretty clear advantage to me.
You expect Steve Wilkes to get after it and want to pin that defensive line's ears back and get after the quarterback?
Yeah, you want to. I thought interesting thing was Tramon Williams, a former Brown, plays for the Packers, was very vocal last night about. After the game, we wanted Mitch Trubisky to play quarterback and beat us. Just, truly sit in there, make throws downfield to beat us. And that's what you have to do with the Titans. You can't allow them to develop play action. You can't allow them to run the football and put you in a huge, play action pass conflict, because that's where they can take advantage of things. Let Marcus Mariota get out on the perimeter with his legs, make plays on the edge off play action. They start getting in a rhythm, picking up first downs, and all of a sudden they become pretty challenging to stop, because they can do a bunch of little things at you. But if you can take away the run game and force, Mariota to throw from the pocket, consistently make throws from the pocket, that is the best recipe for beating them. I don't think that's really up for debate. If you can make him make throws, he's just never been able to do that consistently. If he ends up doing that and beating you, I think you swallow that pill, because that's the best way to go at this team based on where their skill lies. But I think that if you can get in a situation where you take an early lead, and then you have the ability to, from taking that early lead, to sit back and make him make throws, I think that's where the Browns can, and like you said, pin their ears back and let, Miles and Olivier and Sheldon and Larry Ogunjobi get into predictable pass rush situations and use their skill.